So Joe passed her to me. I sat down, and as I'm looking at her, she's latching. It was the exact moment of the Mass of the consecration. And so I'm looking at Violet, but my ears are hearing Father say, "Take and eat. This is my body given for you." And I have heard those words my whole life. But suddenly in that moment, those words took on a whole new meaning.
Before we get to our clip, do us a favor and click subscribe and that bell button below. 2/3 of people who watch us regularly aren't yet subscribed, and it really supports the channel when you do subscribe. It's free, costs nothing, and I really appreciate it.
It was becoming a mother that all of this theory became very real to me. Pregnancy is beautiful, but it has its challenges, its discomforts, its inconveniences. Every night I don't sleep well anymore. As my belly gets bigger and bigger, I'm like, can't even lay on my back. I can't lay on my stomach. Okay, I can. I have two sides to pick from, but it's like every time I turn from one side to the other, I really am like a geriatric pregnancy. I'm like, oh my gosh, this hurts so much. So there is this realization that my life is not my own. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a beautiful thing, because I'm growing in virtue. I'm stepping outside of myself. And then it was when I gave birth that, in a sense, I almost experienced that even more, when my child was no longer dependent on my body the way a baby in the womb is. And Violet was still dependent on me, for my breast milk and for my arms and for my, everything I do to clothe her and change her. But, in a different way. And as many women struggle, I actually was just talking to your lovely wife this morning about this, but my struggles with breastfeeding were huge. I almost gave up, and praise God I didn't. But it was very, very challenging. Violet didn't latch for 3 weeks. And one of the stories I share in the book is how after, we'd had many weeks and months of difficulty with breastfeeding, everything was finally good. And she was 6 months old, and we were in Mass one day. And I was holding her. No, Joe was holding her, and she started fussing. And so I was a feed on demand mom. And so I was like, okay, I'll give her the boob. So Joe passed her to me. I sat down, and as I'm looking at her, she's latching. It was the exact moment of the Mass of the consecration. Wow. And so I'm looking at Violet, but my ears are hearing Father say, "Take and eat. This is my body given for you." And I have heard those words my whole life. But suddenly in that moment, those words took on a whole new meaning. It was like, oh my goodness, she is literally consuming my flesh. My body is a gift to her. I am becoming present to another person. And where the world says, oh, they're parasites, that's disgusting, I'm in this moment of bliss, realizing what an opportunity this is for me to really live up to what I'm meant to be, which is mother, whether that's physical, in my case it is, or spiritual. I think of, for example, the Sisters of Life I mentioned earlier that your wife and I considered joining. This idea that we are meant for maternity and we are meant for paternity. And so I've seen that as we were talking about the relationship with my husband. Like my husband was and is an incredibly virtuous man. But even before I met him, like a man of profound virtue, like his personal holiness was truly extraordinary. But now that he's become a father and a husband and father, his holiness is because he is living out paternity. He was a spiritual father, you could say, in a sense, to his nieces and nephews, and he was really good at it. But there's nothing like, as you know, solely caring for one's offspring and the demands that those children have at all hours of the night and the exhaustion that comes with it. But then you realize when I'm responsive to the needs of another, when I'm literally using my body in every way to help another person, not just survive, but thrive, right? We don't just want to change our children and feed our children. We want to love our children. We want to see them come to life, to become whole and holy. When we are the ones helping them do that, then it also helps us grow in virtue. So so all that to say, like, I always knew this and I always taught this, but the experience of living it out radically and the suffering that motherhood has brought into my life, and at the same time, the profound joys that it has brought into my life has taught me that the my body, my choice mantra is sad and it's ugly. And we are attracted to the good, the true, and the beautiful. And my body for you, which is perfectly lived out through Christ, that is beautiful. And that's what we want to show the abortion supporter who would say, yeah, I can do whatever I want. It's like, are you really fulfilled? Are you really thriving? And I think if you get these people one-on-one where there isn't a crowd, there isn't, the whatever podcast audience, and if you could just meet with these individuals on a one-on-one level, they would see the emptiness of their philosophy and that there's something attractive about the pro-life philosophy, even if they can't yet put their finger on it. There's something beautiful that speaks to a truth written on our hearts.